Great. Hola, how are you? Tired? Okay, let's do it. Well, do you see this gap here? This is the gap between the average GDP per capita of the countries of the Pacific Alliance and the United States. The last one being 6 times higher. And if you compare it to my country, Switzerland, it's 9 times higher. So this gap is what we call at SeedStar an opportunity. And how to bridge this gap is what I have made of my LATAM dream. The question is, what can we do to bridge it? So at SeedStars, we strongly believe that we can somehow get there, leveraging technology and entrepreneurial education. Let me give you a little bit of context. Technology has a very strong impact in the way we live since the last 20 years. A concrete example, it took us 100 years to reach 1 billion users of the fixed phone and only 10 years to reach 1 billion users of the smartphone or the internet. So technology allows higher speed and higher reach. So therefore, there is no doubt that it has an impact on the way that we live, the way that we move, or the way that we work. And talking about work, with the fourth revolution pushing on, studies show that 85% of the job that will exist in 2030 hasn't been created yet. And more the public sector is looking for a new type of skills. Not only digital skills, soft skills as well. Critical thinking, initiative, problem solving for complex cases. But not only them, governments are calling as well for leaders that can understand those new technologies, but that can also lead the change and make sure that those technologies are applied in a way that will generate positive impact for the society. Let's take another example. Recruiting is also getting very much disrupted because of the new type of skills we are needing. Google, Apple, Amazon, sometimes they are no longer requesting just a college degree when recruiting. So that means we need a new type of talent, and we need more and more talent to keep growing at the path we want to reach. So let's now zoom on our region, Latin America. Well, it seems that here we can start to worry a little bit about. If we consider this last and recent study from Manpower, Latin America is one of the worst regions of the world in terms of talent shortage. 3 weeks ago, I was in Colombia in the Platzi Conf, where Freddy Vega, the founder of Platzi, was telling that today in Latin America, we have 1 million people working in technology. And in 2020, which is in less than 2 years, we need to reach 3 million people. We have 24 months to do that. So considering this type of challenge, we have two choices, right? Or we can wait, and at some point, normally the market will re-equilibrate, but this could mean high costs in terms of unemployment, poverty, or social insecurity. Or we can try to experiment and act now. As entrepreneurs, we went more for the second one. And basically what we think is pretty simple. If the era of industrialization was to prepare good employees, the digital era is to educate creative, honest, and resilient talent that are able to act and think independently while working in team. And if you think about those skills that I just mentioned, what we realize at SeedStars is that very often those type of skills, we find them in our most successful founders. This is Damash. He's a founder from in Kazakhstan. He built a startup online platform called Oko, which aimed to teach coding to high school students. And 3 days ago, Damash, he was fighting a life-threatening disease spending all his economy into that, reaching the poverty line. And he persevered to become a senior software engineer, and at some point made the decision and took the risk to launch his own business to help the new generation acquire development, programming, coding skills. Something that is very interesting is that right now we are seeing a reduction in the number of admission of students for MBA. There is much lower interest than it was. And in the contrary, we are seeing an increase year after year of the number of applications to a new type of education and business program, the accelerators. And it is already proven that accelerators have a positive impact on the competitiveness of those ventures, and this essentially in emerging markets. This is a study from Singularity, and it shows that in Cairo, Egypt, an entrepreneur that goes through an accelerator program has 3 times more chance to get funding than one that goes through another path. That doesn't mean that you need to go to an accelerator to be successful, but yes, it can help. So the good news for Latin America is that since the past 6 years, we have more and more very good accelerators coming into the region. And like international accelerator, the top one from the US or Europe are tapping in the talent pool of Latin America. Those accelerators are usually great in the sense that they open the door to a huge network. They have a pretty impressive pool of mentors and great content to support entrepreneurs. But it would be wrong to unlook at the local accelerators that are doing amazing work, such as Startup Farm in Brazil, NXTP Labs in the whole region, or in Peru, UTech Venture, the accelerator of the University of Technology, that has been doing an astonishing work in building the ecosystem and supporting top entrepreneurs. Without obviously forgetting Startup Chile, that is one of the world famous cases, and that actually launched in 2012 with this program, with the idea that it could change the mindset of Chileans in terms of disruption and innovation. So here I come to my next point, mindset. This study from McKinsey and the OECD has shown that actually mindset has the most influence in the chance of success and achievements of the students, more even than the quality of the teacher or than the environment at school. And even more interesting, having a well-calibrated growth mindset for a student can be equivalent to leapfrogging into a higher socio-economic quartile for those students that come from low-income classes and communities. So in somehow, empowering growth mindset can be a way out of poverty. So at Sisters, we were thinking, okay, if we want to have an impact in emerging markets, and if we are investors ourselves, and if there is a talent gap, we need to ensure that we bridge it. So what if we try to apply entrepreneurial concept and mindset to an education program? And in 2016, we tried for the first time and launched Seed Stars Academy in Nigeria, in Africa. And we got 300 applications, out of which we selected for this first batch 15 students. And during 6 months, we teach them hard skills and soft skills to build a tech startup. 3 years after, we are pretty excited to see that this program is expanding all over the world. We have now a partnership with the government and the Ministry of Education in Ivory Coast, another one in Myanmar, with the government and with a private bank. And our students, per year, we have around like 100 students in those countries that learn soft skills, hard skills to be an entrepreneur, and at the same time, they are truly building impactful venture. For example, we did some in financial inclusion, other in education. And if they fail, it's fine, because they will have acquired experience that allowed them to work for other successful founders or to try another company, which is pretty interesting. Now, we know that education and entrepreneurial education is not a destination, but a long journey. And we are still at the beginning of it, but we got some interesting learning. Here are 3 of them. First one, education is not one-size-fits-all. And there is no doubt that machine learning or artificial intelligence will truly disturb the way education is provided, allowing much more personalized content and way to learn for students of tomorrow. We are also working on that at SeedStars, but actually when you think and meanwhile we get there, this is actually what accelerators have been trying to provide, and very successfully in some cases, building a pool of mentors with different types of skills and industry background, and matching them with the need of each one of their founders they have in their batch. Personalized mentoring. Second challenge that is kind of a huge question for us is education is still not bridging the inequality gap. We still have a very few percentage of the founders that apply at SeedStars that are women, for example. So this year we started to add a gender equality entrepreneurship track to a worldwide pitching competition in order to change this ratio. Another very interesting program in terms of equality has been founded by a Mexican woman. It's called LAB4, and it's aimed to empower refugees and migrants to learn coding so that they can have better job opportunities afterward. And what about Platzi, a Colombian platform that is known all over Latin America with more than 500,000 students that allow their students to have access to a pool of digital courses for less than $1 per day. And finally, this is another of the challenges we need to consider, is that education outcomes are hard to measure, and we should start to accept it. It will depend on the program itself, the participant and their mindset, but also the context. All those criteria will have an influence on the outcomes. And believe me, in terms of context, emerging markets are quite an interesting playground if you compare them to developed markets in terms of challenges. So the last question is, who is responsible for this? Who needs to take the lead on changing the way education is provided in order to bridge the talent gap? Government, universities, corporate, individual. If you have this question in different places of the world, you will have different answers. What we think it is kind of an ecosystem answer, and this is our responsibility. Starting with successful entrepreneurs that, as Endeavor has already shown, have kind of a multiplier effect and can inspire others. What is really interesting right now in Latin America is that more and more founders, they also have a new trend is to make learning sexy and glamorous again. So young, they want to learn. If you think of Christian and Freddie, the founder of Platzi, they have the first value, never stop learning. Kaya, the other entrepreneur, which is SeedStars winner in Costa Rica in 2015, he has created his own YouTube challenge to teach different types of skills to the new generation in Latin America. Accelerators like us, 500 Startup, or programs like Holacol or Better School, they have to ensure quality program and to give the right type of resources to their entrepreneur or their student. Investors should take more bet in education so that we can also experiment and find better way to monetize on those programs and have better sustainability. Academy should maybe try to work with programs like SeedStars or 500 YC to get a better access to market and iterate the curriculum. Corporate needs to invest in their talent. If you look at Rappi, that was a startup some years ago, very fast they created their own founded program called Foundation Rappi, in which they partnered to Alberto School to have a sufficient pool of engineers. And finally, government should put even more skin in the game. Not only the Ministry of Technology or Productivity should invest into that, but why not the Ministry of Education, like in Africa? So basically, I think most of us, we agree that education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world. And if today it seems that it's kind of a hard time in Latin America, that we may have wait a bit too much to act. I'm also here to say that meanwhile I'm talking, there are thousands of entrepreneurs, of millennials, of young students that are working very hard in order to build technological business that will have an impact on the competitiveness of our region and on our society. So if, like us, you want to bet and invest in this learning revolution, hablemos. Muchas gracias.